open this Accounting Finance Committee meeting, June 3rd, it's 4 o'clock. We've got quite a bit of items, Philip keeps adding.
Oh, no.
Start, let's, Dan's in here, so let's go to electric rates first. Get him out.
All right.
And I think, to be honest, it's probably more, well, besides the Army, it's probably more talking than this.
Looks like we, and correct me if I'm wrong, actually looks like we provided to you two scenarios for the
Yes.
utility.
Correct.
And we're talking specifically for the general demand meter. The first of which would be to eliminate the third and fourth tier and to make all kilowatt hours over 3,000 to be 90.5 cents per kilowatt hour over 3,000 kilowatt hours. The second option would be to retain the tiers and make the last over 50,000 kilowatt hours at the 9.5 cent per kilowatt hour. The 9.5 comes from our average usage or our average purchase cost in the mills from Beeman. We showed that to you last time. And so we have a couple different options. And if I'm not mistaken, they both still maintain, or both of these scenarios have 15 kilowatts instead of 20 kilowatts free to the customer. Okay, and I think you ran some scenarios for Eric off of his bill.
I did,
Okay.
I did one if we were just to change the tiers, and then I also did another one if we were to change the tier in first.
We talked about it a couple of times.
Yeah.
So, can you talk to me about the change in demand? Now that I understand how it's calculated and understand what it's doing to the bill, but on the finance side of it, are we trying to catch up to demand charges that we're getting by running peak generators, or what's our
I'll be honest with you, the
rationale
purpose
there?
of it is to eliminate free consumption and to provide, I guess, additional revenue to the tank. And certainly to capture the new facilities that have been built, specifically the residential facilities that have been built, and looking for, without, I guess this is a de facto increase in rates, but without actually increasing rates, was a way to generate more monies. Our electric system is solid. Dan does a good job running it. We're not in the red. Actually transfer a lot of money from our electric system into our general fund. This would give us a chance. And we haven't budgeted any of this stuff. It will give us a year to figure out what the full impact dollar-wise to be to the town, but really is to eliminate the free consumption and to bring in more revenue. I don't think there's a scientific explanation or any of that kind of stuff. And instead of doing 20 or going to 10 or going to 5 or eliminating free kilowatt hours altogether, I figured I would start at 5 kilowatts less and see what that is during the course of an entire year.
So, on
I
the
would say, I
bill,
mean, that's more or less your profit margin. I would say profit, I wouldn't say profit, but you only make money off of demand charges. You're not making money off the kilowatt hour charges by giving to that cost or even less.
Well, that's why I think the main thing, in my opinion, is to get the tiers to where the lowest one is not gonna be below what we buy it for.
Yeah, well, that's about what we're paying for. I mean,
Yeah.
09 is, you know,
In,
what's costing us.
in addition, I mean, if you look at the residential rates too, residential has been supplementing the commercial for a very, very long time, and I want to reverse that trend, so at least they're even, or the commercial is supplementing the residential.
Yeah. We shouldn't be selling it in the higher tiers for less than what, I mean,
Okay. And y'all have, you can separate them, you can do them as tiers, you can leave the kilowatt hours free the same. Like I said, the budget's not built on you doing anything. And this is the issue sometimes, I think, even with the county, when they use figures to determine how to budget for personal property or any of those other kinds of things. And I think they've had a little issue at Nottoway Inn when Amelia, where they double budgeted things. We just look at the previous year's consumption, and then we look at what Vino's estimations are. So we don't use assumed or potential. We look at what we collected last year.
entering all this stuff computer-wise or us inputting it manually, doing the three different tiers, 2 different tiers, or like the first example you gave has the first 3,000 is 11 cent, and then anything over that is 0.09. Is it easier only having those 2 tiers? Okay, that's what I was figuring.
I think it would
The
be.
tiers is kind of, like I'm probably the only one that's got all these crazy tiers like
Yeah.
versus everybody else.
I personally, and we can, this is just me speaking, but I like the idea of obviously doing the less tiers. I would like to see the demand stay at 20, the free, I should say.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
We
that's
definitely
fine.
don't wanna sell, I don't wanna sell power cheaper than what we're buying for. That's the main objective, I think. Jake's doing some
Doing
computing.
some math over here.
So I mean, with the 09, the all over 3,000, number.
Well, that's why I asked, because I think having less tiers sounds like is more beneficial to the girls.
Yeah, and it also doesn't, my personal opinion, I don't think the tiers make much sense. Like the 2501 to 3,000,
Yeah.
499 kilowatt hours, we have a whole tier for that. And then you have 3,000 to 50,000.
Which everyone falls in there.
Yeah, and then all over 50,000, I don't know. My personal opinion, the tiers that we currently have just, they don't really make any sense.
Do we have any consumers over 50,000? We do.
Do we, well,
Or do we or do we not?
Heritage All maybe?
There's all, Wilson Tire,
Reese maybe?
Reese, the Black on End probably.
This is an odd number for somebody to know off the top of their head, or probably even have in front of them, but do we know what we're collecting on just small, general?
I don't know if you'd have to run a report or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't wanna run a fan.
You trying to see what the gain would be by
Cause it
not
looks like
using.
almost a just on this example bill, it looks like almost a 2% increase just without changing the demand, just changing.
Yeah, from original to change yield.
Yeah, and that's, and it's gonna show even more than 2% on your larger users.
And one thing you could do too is just eliminate the 2,500 kW tier and go from all over 3,000 or under 3,000 at 11,333, and then keep the 3,000 to 50,000 kW, and then adjust that 50,000 plus kW each. And that's
So
an
get rid of
option.
another tier. Right? No. I don't know if that's wrong, Dave.
That's the first one that you're looking at. That's the old 2-tier, or, yeah.
Yeah, so you're saying eliminate the first 2,500 kilowatt tier?
Yeah, and just make it under 3,000, then 3,000 to 50,000, and then over 50,000. That's an option.
I
I
think
mean,
the first example is the eliminating the 2,500 and just doing the first 3,000 like you're saying, and then
Mhm.
all over 3,000, so you really end up with a 2-tier system. Is
But
that what you're?
technically, you're gonna lose a penny on those customers that are between 3,000 and 50,000.
I see what you're saying.
That may be a compromise. So you have your first 3,000, then you got 3,000 to 50,000, and just leave that the same, and then all over 50,000, scope it at 9,050. Where do the majority of commercial customers come from?
I don't know, it's hard to say.
We can try that, you know.
I mean, you got somebody from an insurance place, small insurance company, uses a regular bill, they probably don't say much. You're saying eliminate the first tier, 11263?
Yeah, just make it up to 3,000, then 3,000 to 50,000, and then over 50,000. And make the over 50,000 the 9.9050. The 3,000 to 50,000 would stay at that 10,192, and then the first 3,000 would be 11,333.
What you saying there?
The exercise is not to collect less money, as you can tell, but just do away with that first tier, that 11,263, and then go first 3,000 at 11,333.
Mhm.
Keep the 3,000 to 50,000 at 10,192, and then over 50,000, instead of that 8.5 cents, it's now 9 cents.
You're not gonna collect less money either way we go, period, because,
Well, I think that one tier, the 3,000 to 50,000, you're gonna drop that from 10 cents to 9 cents,
yeah, but the bill still goes up.
to 10%.
Only if you use more than 50,000, right?
No, that 3,000 to 50,000 tier, which is now 10 cents,
Yeah.
what you're proposing, or what could do, would drop it to 9 cents. So you lose 10% on it.
On the
10%
3,000,
reduction for that entire 3,000, part.
you said 3,000 would be how much?
The first 3,000 would be at 11,333.
Okay.
3,000 to 50,000 would be at 10,192, and all over 50,000 would be at 09050.
That would we'd only, if you didn't do it, we're only losing.
You're losing a
we're
penny
only
a
losing
kilowatt
revenue
hour
between
for all those users between
3 and 50.
between 3,000 and 50,000.
So you
Is
losing.
that a lot of users?
Yeah.
Between 3 and
that's
50.
the majority of them.
Most all of them,
I mean, you're 494, aren't you?
you know, right here,
Oh, I'm
6,000.
leaving it wrong.
I don't think the plan is done.
Well, how did your bill go up? That's
I'm
fine.
pretty sure you're losing.
How'd it go up? Because the rate was below what we were, it was 0.08, so they've already increased that. And so here, go from 0.08 to it would go to 10 cents.
10.192.
Yeah, but if you're one of those users within that range, right? If
Yeah.
I'm reading this correctly, you're one of the users within the range,
Correct.
and your bill went up. So the theory that we're losing money in that range is not correct by this bill that's in front of us. So I'm
Yeah,
confused as to why that is. That's what I'm trying to figure
Yeah, correct, you're not losing money.
out. Okay.
Now, hold on, now, wait a minute, wait a minute.
See, that's where I'm confused, because the bill in front of me
Hold on.
is saying we're not doing that.
If you're from 3,000 to 50,000 kilowatt hour, it's going to 9 cents. Is it currently 10,192?
No,
What is it
It
currently?
is currently,
it's one of those 80.
0.09.050.
I had it in front of me when I did that. Do you
What
have it?
is it?
0.085 now.
Sorry, I'm doing
Huh?
that.
3,050 right now is currently 0.085.
Okay, all right, so this isn't current, this is just.
No, this is not
That's
current.
another proposal.
I'll show you.
Okay, yeah, I like this.
Go to the fewer tiers, as long as you're not going in a
Yeah, I don't-
negative, but if your current is 0.85,
Yeah,
that's fine.
Can we do I would suggest the fewer tiers, but keep the first 20 kilowatts on demand, and that should be around the 2%.
Now, if we come back next year after 12 months and we see it, that,
My mistake, I was thinking that was the
yeah, I didn't know.
the current, my bad. If it's 8 cents and you are
Yeah, it's 8
increasing it
cents.
to 9, so I'm good.
I understand where you were coming from. You're like, oh, hold on, we're gonna shoot ourselves in the foot.
We're gonna lose money. So, But no,
I
if
understood where
the
you're
current
coming
is 8.5, then you're doing fine. We're not trying to gouge it.
So what now?
The document I was looking here that showed that, the rate from 3,000 to 50,000 kilowatt hour, coming in at 10 cents.
Yeah.
Okay? Right now, that's not the current. The current is 8.5 cents,
Correct.
okay? So we would just be proposing to take it to 9 cents.
To where we're not losing anything.
So you're not going backwards, which is fine. The effort is not intended to go backwards.
So that should be, like you said, around
I'm fine.
somewhere between a 1.7 to 2.
That was my bad. I thought that was current.
Because Eric will see a $16 increase.
Right, yeah.
Second scenario.
Correct. Depending upon what
I'm
month
cool
it
with
is,
it.
yeah.
Okay. So we'll try that this coming year. I make a motion to present the small general electric rates for the first 20 kW of demand being free as it is now, but going with the rest of the schedule as presented on, I'm gonna call this example 1, with the 2-tier system.
You want to second that, Donnie? something we can say, oh, we can inflate the budget this year with anything, cause we
No,
don't know
budget's not
numbers.
reflecting
We
any.
know no numbers.
I don't know what this is gonna ultimately produce.
Correct, we have no
Until
clue.
next year, we don't know if that's gonna
Correct.
inflate.
Alright, is there anything
Anything?
else before Dan leaves? I don't see anything.
Done with it?
Alright, so let's go to, I just wanna save Armory for last, cause let's do the Christmas bonus increases.
I think either the mayor or someone brought this
I
up.
think it was Mr. Page.
Mr. Page.
So in the green, is what we did
Current.
current, and I just gave some examples of what it would look like if you bumped them up to 75 and 50 or 175. Just total of what it would cost.
And in all disclosure, I received this donation, so I'm not going to be, now I'll tell you that I'm not 100% certain it needs to go up, but
So for the first example, it's a raise of $1,625 on the budget, am I reading this correctly?
Yes.
Yeah.
Looks like it.
And if I did the math correctly, which I maybe didn't. And then the second example, it's a raise of, 4,150.
you're doubling it.
You're doubling it,
Well-
almost doubling it in the first example, and then you're almost tripling it in the second example.
I got you, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
About 30.
I'll make a motion for the second, or for the first example, with a total of 4,500, taking seniors to $75 and juniors to $50.
Got a second on that?
Yeah.
Alright, all those in favor?
Aye.
It carries 2-0-1 with me abstaining. Alright, so
We're rolling through this stuff.
That's tough to do.
property tax relief, that's, that can be, let's do real estate equalization. I think that one's
Real
gonna be
estate
easy.
equalization. Alright, I think Jackie gave you a staple up sheet.
The added stuff?
Yeah.
The stuff that I made
Mhm.
up, okay.
And there's 4 different number, and it, refer to the upper left-hand corner.
2.2, or 22 cents?
Yeah, we had a 22 cents, and then we ran one at
What is it currently?
22 cents is the current.
Okay, where you at?
On this
Real estate.
first page. That shows
I don't have that.
22%, and this one shows if you were to equalize.
Oh, my bad, right, right.
That's the 22, that's current.
17,
17 is an option
and this, just minus 5 for veterans.
for veterans. And then you've got 18 cents. Okay, and again, 22. If you left it,
So if I'm reading this
go to
correctly,
the last page.
you may need to explain, because I feel like it's not
The front page is current,
correct.
22 cents
Without all of the increases in
value.
the
In
values.
values, okay.
Yeah,
So
but
that's,
that,
this is the number we're shooting.
That-
Which if we
you
kept
need to
it
be
equal,
within
we
1% of that.
If you equalize that, yes.
Okay.
So the second one is with 17 cents minus 5,300 for veterans.
That would be your equalization. Okay.
Okay,
At
so then
17
we're-
cents, so you're losing a little bit of money.
Is veterans not already taken out of this?
I think they're already taking out. Okay. Because she, if you read that email she sent me, it said, I haven't done the,
I saw it said not.
I haven't done the veterans yet.
Okay.
Okay.
So then,
And then it's approximately the same amount irregardless if you go 17 or 18, it's within a few $100s, okay? If you go to 18 cents, you're at 434. So you gotta be somewhere in between 17 and 18. But if you exceed by 1% your collection, you gotta have a separate public hearing. Okay?
Well,
So unless you hold a separate public hearing, you gotta go to 17. Now, this does not include new construction. Okay? I'm
this
advocating,
doesn't show the new
so
construction.
is
does
this,
not reflect new construction.
so is this number?
But these are new valuations. If you look at current,
Mhm.
you know, what, 185 million?
Yeah, 188 million.
188 million, your new valuation is 241 million.
Okay, so
And if you go to 18 cents, you're more than 1%.
But I don't know if that 100%, that isn't 100% accurate of new construction, because also, I mean, my house went up 60%.
Right, that's why we're dropping the rate, to keep you.
Well, I'm saying the total value isn't all just because of new construction that's been built in Blackstone.
Oh, no, new construction is not worked in here.
It's not even in here.
It's not even in
Okay,
here.
Gotcha.
Okay.
I
So
thought
do
you
I
were
need
saying
to,
it
do I
was.
need to subtract 5, this 5,300 from all of them?
Yep.
But see, that's a
And
fluctuation.
now, it fluctuates a little bit when you change the rate, but it's within a few $100.
Well, you know, this here veteran thing, that I'm not, I can't vote on this real estate anyway.
Well, that's a county thing, that's already done,
Right.
okay?
But what I'm saying is this veterans thing, this thing keep going up every year.
It could.
I know I'm saying it is going up every year.
It could. Here's the list of veterans now. Oh, here you go.
She wrote
Yeah.
something on there,
She already did the math
I
for you.
think 17% and 18.
That's how much you take off at 22 cents if you leave it.
Okay.
That's how much you take off at 18 cents. So the difference between,
$300?
yeah, 300.
So explain, I don't
422.
think, this isn't even part of the conversation, because I don't think the veterans thing would really even, what is the, so if you're a veteran, you get free
You
real
don't pay
estate?
nothing.
Okay,
You don't pay anything.
gotcha.
On one vehicle, is that
Yeah,
correct?
one vehicle. You get one
Okay, this
vehicle,
is just vehicle.
one vehicle in your
Do you get it?
Well, hold
I
on,
mean,
this is for real estate tax,
Right, we're doing
real estate. A veteran doesn't pay any real estate.
no real estate.
No real estate.
You can see what I just handed you.
Gotcha. I've got it right here.
You got it.
So we're doing 241.
But the veterans don't make a big factor.
No, I wasn't even questioning that, I was just getting clarity as to what's all.
I think the difference is the 1%, and when you look at 17 cents or 18 cents, I think even if you factor or don't factor veterans in, I don't think it modifies the fact that you're more than 1% on your levy.
We calculating all that, Jake?
So this 18 is 200, its total tax is 434,000,
That would be intended collection minus veteran.
for which,
So you gain $20,000 if you do that.
And that's 5%.
Yeah.
Roughly 5% of collection, so it exceeds your 1%, so you'd have to, see, the veterans don't skew it enough to determine whether or not you can, equalize. I think you gotta equalize at 17, or you've got a process that you gotta go through, and that process is shown in the state code section I shared with you. And I think that's what the county did the other night when they had the separate public hearing on the tax rate.
So that's gonna be.
I am advocating staying at 17.
Correct, and that's what I was gonna say, I personally think we should stay at the equalization rate of 17. You know, it shows that you actually take a little bit less,
But the new construction could skew
Correct.
that enough to put you back up to the 413.
because our citizens are already gonna, remember, our citizens
County
pay
didn't
the
smell it.
county,
Yeah.
and you're gonna see 24% increase
I think the new construction will
offset.
provide you enough that you would collect approximately what you collected this
Okay,
year.
that makes
So
I
sense.
got a
17 is where I would,
I got a question.
So,
because I know the 18 is too much. I
Listen,
know 18 is too much.
now maybe I don't know what I'm saying, but y'all hollering about this budget and everything. But now we didn't came up here, you still wanna keep everything the same. So I mean, how will, how would,
Because I provided the council a balanced budget based on 17 cents, or the equalization or the equivalent of 17 cents with the new valuation. Now, if council would like to get more revenue, you can. I mean, you can stay at 22 cents. I mean, you can collect a pile more money. You can collect approximately $100,000 by just leaving your rate the same. Now, if you want $100,000 or need $100,000 that you can see immediately for a position or for armory, I put $50,000 in for armory operations in the budget. But I think you probably need to operate that thing for 6 months or a year to figure out exactly what the cost of that's gonna be. But if you need that position, you can leave it at 22 cents, but we've gotta have a separate public hearing, letting folks know that. Okay?
think we get the text on what
I
that.
think if you go to 18, you still have to have a public hearing.
But,
19, 20, 21, and 22, you're gonna have a separate public hearing. If you go to 17, I don't believe you need to.
Well, you're actually to the good of the citizens if you go to 17.
Unless money was higher.
Yeah.
Or we hope approximately the same amount of money,
Correct.
but, I think it'll actually be a net wash at 17 because of the new construction not being factored.
I like 17, if you're confident in the, construction numbers, I'm good with that. Reasonably.
Yeah, I mean, doing the math and going back and forth, and Chrissy ran several scenarios for us, and 17 brings in a little less than what you make now, but with new construction, I think it'll let. Now,
I think 17.2 would be exact if you put the veterans in there, but it's a new construction should
Well-
so 17's good.
As I've said this, and I just got off the phone with my committee.
Mhm.
And you know, we gotta find a position for this HR.
and you can pay for it by leaving the tax rate at the same, at 22 cents.
And I'd much rather for the whole council to discuss it than that.
Oh, yeah, the council
Let
has
the whole
to
council
do that,
discuss it,
correct.
but I'm just letting you know.
Okay.
Maybe we can come to some kind of agreement, but.
Well, my recommendation for real estate equalization is gonna be 17 cents. I'll make a motion to that. I'll make a motion for 17 cents for equalizing.
Second, any more discussion? I guess we've probably discussed it, all that we need to. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Is that a yay, nay?
You're saying?
I'm good.
Okay, 3-0.
All right. Personal property tax?
Yes, sir.
All right, personal property tax. This is not equalization, okay? Because we don't equalize personal property tax. But in your packet, I think if you go to the last page,
Where did this start? Like, what was the
1997.
purpose?
1997, I think.
The
Governor Jim
agenda?
Gilmore, I think, he came out here and said he was gonna get rid of car tax, if you remember. And they gave each locality a percentage, like the first year, and if I remember correctly, it was 25 years ago. I think they were planning on ultimately tearing it up, but the state, I think, couldn't afford it once they got into it.
Gotcha.
Okay? So we get a flat check every year for the same amount, which was a benchmark figure, I think it was 40% in 1997 of our total collections, okay? And if you look at that number, it's highlighted on this sheet with one.
Where you at?
That highlighted page, that's where we collect, and we've gotten the same amount certainly since I've been here, of $42,985. And that's all we're gonna get from the state, okay? Right now, we still provide that 60% relief, when it should be something lower. It should be more akin to that $42,000. So if you look at PPTRA, we're giving a dollar value of relief at 60% of $64,000. At 50%, it's at $54,000. At 40%, it's $43,377.
And that's the relief we're giving in a dollar form?
And we're giving it. And if you go to 35, it's at 37, which is too low. That's lower than that figure. So it needs to be between 35 and 40. And we ran two options, one at 38% relief and one at 39% relief. And the 39% relief makes you whole.
And when you say makes us whole, makes us to where we're collecting what we're charging?
Or that $42,000. So we're not providing relief beyond that $42,000. Right now, we're providing additional relief, which is at 60% when it should be about 39%.
So what's the option of the 35% relief? Does that mean we would gain extra?
No, mean you lose. That you, well, excuse me, we would gain it.
Yeah, you would gain extra, yeah.
We would gain extra,
39 would be equalizing,
roughly equalized. Yep.
and right now we're at 60.
So what's the percent that they're giving us?
I think it was 40% originally. On a
That's what it is.
1997 valuation.
Yeah, I was about to say the
It's
valuation
not on
was
today
skewed.
because the number's the
Okay,
same
okay.
every year and has been
That's
for.
what's the problem, is that
14
there's no
years.
inflation.
Why
it
is
gives us
that?
a Flat number. Huh?
Why is
Why
that?
did the state calculate
Because I think the state had big ideas. I think I
Lost the
remember,
potatoes
I
on
was
it.
pretty darn young back then, but, Governor Gilmore was going, get rid of car tax, and that's partially how we got elected. I mean, it was very popular. And so the state, I think, if I remember correctly, came up with some tiers, we'll do this much this year, this much next year, this much, and I think ultimately they couldn't
Live up to the.
live up to getting rid of the full amount of car tax. So they eliminated or provided the locality 40% of it.
So what are we collecting now?
In total collections, about 110,000. That's a true collection.
About 110?
We collect about 110,000.
And what is that number, where's that number on here? Or is that not on here? I know
I don't think
110
it's on
is
there.
not on here,
I
but
don't
is
think
is
it's on
there
there.
somewhere?
This is just showing you relief, what is subtracted, I guess.
These are on valuations. Yeah, 24 million, mobile homes, machinery and tools, hand equipment. So,
So 20,
but if you look in the budget,
mhm.
if you, well, that's $27 million of valuation.
Yeah, so it's,
So if you were to do the math, but our true collection and what I budgeted, about $110,000. That's what we
What have
collected.
you budgeted this year? The 60%?
Yeah, I've still got a 60.
Okay.
Mhm. So anything you do would provide more revenue. I'd wait a year before you decide to spend it
Yeah.
to make sure it all comes true.
Or I see where everybody's going with it, and I understand, but again, I don't think it should all hit at one time. If we do it at 50% reduction this year, then you tier it, and I don't think we can go to equalize and say, oh, let's do 40%.
I recommend it staying at the 60, but remember, because the car values had tumbled, or it had gone up so much, we actually dropped it down to 72 cents from 85 to 72, and collected approximately the same amount of money.
Okay.
We're pretty close, okay?
and so we've already adjusted for the inflated car values?
We dropped the rates,
Mhm.
okay?
I remember. I think I remember.
And that was last year, we dropped the rate, but we kept the 60%
Relief.
relief. So if you wanna do something with relief, I mean, we're
I
talking
mean,
10% is $10,000, roughly. You go to 50, you would gain logically
is the
10,000.
push to change it? I don't know, I mean,
I'm not
saying by you, but is this something that the
The
county's
county's
doing
down
because
closer
they
to
need,
like a 41%.
are they saying that because they need the revenues, I guess, or what?
In fairness, I mean, do we wanna continue, it's like the free kilowatts.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a nice thing to do, but do we wanna continue doing free kilowatts?
correct.
Same kind of thing. Do we wanna provide that? And I think more sophisticated communities perhaps, like a Chesterfield or Henrico, have probably been keeping up with this every year. And
So it's
so
not-
with just 1% at a time or 2% at a time, and probably they're tracking it, and it's exactly correct, at a much higher rate.
Probably the right way to do it would be to, if we don't, I mean, we only need to collect what we need, right? And apparently, we don't need it, so
Wait a minute, hold on,
why
this is
wouldn't
what,
why wouldn't we lower the rate while reducing the percent relief until we're no longer giving relief, but we're at the rate appropriate to what we needed to collect? Does that make sense?
no, because my question is, we're saying we need money to do this with, but every time it comes up, we don't need money. So either we need money or we don't.
I don't
Because,
think we need it.
huh?
I don't think we need it, but I also don't think we need to do everything that we're proposing to do.
I just don't understand.
You can leave it like it is, 72 cents to 60% relief. You can increase the rate. You can leave the relief at 60. But the county has dropped their relief back into the low 40s. I think she said it was 41%. Options, the budget is not built on this. If you wanna raise money for positions or for activities or anything you wanna do, that's gonna get you every 10% of relief that you eliminate, you'll gain about $10,000. Okay.
I understand where you're coming from, Miller, but also.
Question. Okay, we had $50,000 allocated for the Gators, right? So we're not using that this year, right?
Yeah, but that's a one-time thing now.
What are you saying?
This is the way, if you're gonna fund positions, you wanna find an ongoing revenue that's gonna be present every year. That 50,000 for the Gators is a one-time shot. When it's gone, you gotta come up with the money somewhere else. But an ongoing revenue source should pay for things like salaries and benefits and positions and that sort of thing. My recommendation. Now, I can tell you Amelia, they've spent landfill money on doing, and they got themselves in a little jam with that stuff. One-time money should go to one-time expense.
Oh,
Ongoing money should go to ongoing.
It's, you know,
And you don't have to do anything. We'll talk about it Wednesday, if council wants to do something. But the budget is not going to, my recommended
It's not
budget,
gonna make
not your
break off
budget,
of it,
my
yeah.
recommended, submitted to you, is not affected by whether you do anything or not.
Go ahead.
You wanna do it?
I'm not, for an item from the chairman.
Just want me to make a long one? I'll make a motion to stay where we're at.
Second. Any more discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye.
I think we need to talk about this.
Well, it's gonna be referred, I mean.
You gotta deal with it Wednesday night.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so is that a nay?
Yes.
2-1.
Alright.
We will go.
Jackie's gonna do your 501c3
Yeah, let's do that, that's what I had next on.
Jackie can handle said issue.
This is just the same thing I presented last time. I think y'all were supposed to get together.
We were
come
gonna
up
try to
with
figure out,
some
do
policy
we
or-
set a tier?
Yeah.
Or not a tier, but a
Like
limit.
a cap.
Yeah,
How many months, or how many years are we gonna contribute and how much are we gonna
Correct.
contribute, kind of thing. It should say 501c3 donation.
Yeah.
I just can't keep track of my paper, it's not too.
I do like how you separate everything to
I
where.
tried to, but it just makes it easier, just to jump around.
I think the main gist of this is coming, and I say, and obviously it's been blasted in the paper enough that, yeah, I made the motion for the 9,000, but at some point, we've gotta set a threshold. And Miller's mentioned it before, that, you know, obviously we gave money to Chamber one event, we gave money to the Juneteenth at one point, and it was all determined that it was supposed to be seed money at that time. So, where do we draw the line as to, do we continue with the 5,000 threshold? Do we go up, or do we go down, or what? And me personally, I like spreading the wealth amongst all organizations more, instead of, I mean, when you get $5,000, $10,000 a pop to each organization, you don't reach, you get the impact amongst the whole community. I personally would like to see the threshold down to $2,500, to where that's where we try to meet.
First time on council we ever agreed, but I agree with you.
Yeah.
I agree.
And there's nothing against any of the events, this is the chamber, this is Juneteenth, this is everybody across the board. We can't, I haven't even talked to Jake and where he stands on this, but I just feel like we can go broke continuing.
The 2,500 though, are you hoping that that's an every year thing, or is this?
Well, we already know
like,
that
hey,
it's every year.
Okay,
We already know that
Yeah.
the chamber's gonna come every year, we already know Juneteenth is coming every year.
yeah.
I believe,
Let's not kid ourselves.
But
I think that's the safe way.
But can I say something? Okay, if we're gonna do this, why can't we give help 2,500? You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If we say 2,500, why come we can't give help? Cause they are helping the community.
Oh,
So
no,
we
help.
gotta donate
No
to
offense,
it.
but I think help benefits this community
More than anything on,
more
we
than
gotta,
anything on
right.
the list,
So that,
100%.
when I looked at this, I was gonna ask, cause we were gonna set the threshold, but I would like to see help get 2,500 too, if we gonna give money out, you know?
Yeah.
I think that's the safe approach for doing it. However, if I think about what I actually believe rather than just the safe approach, I think all these should be looked at as business decisions. And council just needs to have the backbone to say, is it worth $5,000, or is it worth $1,300, or is it worth $11,000?
Agree.
And
I just don't know if we have it.
And I thought about that, but I know how we up here sit, when someone's in front of us,
Get scared.
we don't have the backbone to say.
Right. I would.
We just, and you know that.
The only thing, like I said, the only thing I'm saying, you know, if we gonna give up 2,500, I think help should be a part of that 2,500. Or if we gonna
Well,
do it
there-
individually, then do it individually. But I really think that help does more for this community than anybody, you know. So I don't feel that it's fair to just give them $1,300.
Well, I mean, they'll obviously have the benefit of coming to us for a request up to that, so. And so,
rather set a cap on the total dollar amount and then divvy it up
Yeah.
throughout the year rather than
Well,
just say
we
$2,500
have that
if whoever comes
currently.
up here.
We have that, and that's what's obviously not working.
What's in the budget now? For
15,000.
Your
15 for-
discretionary, that's it. There's
15?
nothing in the budget for agency funding.
Council discretionary fund is 15,000.
Huh?
Our discretionary is 15,000 a year, so we take 2 funding requests, and you're at 10 grand already.
Yeah.
So all those little petty things that we vote on, not pity, but, or petty, excuse me, all those little things that we vote on each month,
Picture
that,
frames and plaques and
all that comes from the council
resolutions
discretionary.
framed and, yeah, that.
That's what I'm saying, cap it off at 2,500. That's
For a
what
long
I'm
Jake, I
time,
like
cases
your
of
idea,
water
but I
comes
know
up
that
here too.
we're gonna go
cap.
over it.
Right, I'll say
We
cap
don't
at
even ask for
25.
that number every year. I mean, do we as a council, and even us on the account finance, we know that our discretionary is 15,000. I know I personally have mentioned it in many meetings about our discretionary fund that is overspent already, but we continue to overspend it.
And you know
We
too,
shouldn't have done that.
and I'm gonna tell you something
Take
else
that
too.
$20,000 from insurance and put it in discretionary.
Listen, I'll tell you something else too. Now, I've been onto a lot of organizations. They give up seed money or whatever you call it. But also these organizations can't just sit on their hind parts and get out there and expect us to give it to them. That's the way I look at it. And I'm still there for 2,500. I'm like you are 2,500.
I think these organizations are doing, I think they're doing the best they can with what they got, but it's our job up here to determine whether, in my opinion, it's our job to determine whether what they're bringing to Blackstone and to the citizens either has the potential
Offset.
to offset it with growth, or whether it's currently offsetting it. I think help is a very easy decision. I think $1,300 is probably going well and beyond $1,300.
And that's
for
in the
me.
budget, that
Yes.
1,300 is
Right.
already in our budget.
So that's a separate item from our
He always,
discretionary?
yeah, he always submits that agency funding request, I think it's just 'cause Jennifer Hardy sent it to him, but it's already in the budget, we already paid the light bill, that is already budgeted in there, and then the parking fee donation,
So-
whatever we get for parking fees, that's what we give him.
So both requests from, so if we get helps in a different line, we figure Juneteenth and Chamber of Commerce alone, we're already overspent our line item for
We're
council
at
discretion.
16,000.
I agree. I don't wanna get in the habit of where Jake's not-for-profit protecting Anthills comes up here and so we should give him $2,500 rather, and then we're giving the Chamber of Commerce and Juneteenth, the same amount. I don't
Oh,
think
yeah,
that those bring
absolutely.
I don't think that those
Well, no.
items bring the same value, so I'm hesitant to put a policy in place cause I think that we're gonna have less backbone with the policy in place to just divvy out $2,500.
Well, I think, I don't, and me personally, I agree with what you're saying, that I don't think it's gonna be, hey, everybody that comes to that podium gets $2,500.
Right.
So it's like a cap,
I say that's your
Like
cap,
that,
we're
no,
giving
we're
no
not
more
giving
than,
The 20, give
You can
no
still
more
get
than
less.
$2,500.
oh,
So
absolutely.
somebody come up there, we can say, well, okay, we feel that $1,000 is enough.
yeah.
But again, like I said, if we leave it status quo,
You're broke.
I don't think we have a backbone, me included, when someone comes up to that podium, we look them in the face and go, no. But if we change it, do we have the backbone then to stand up and say, this is all you get?
I would tell them, I have no issue with it. Because every organization I've ever been in, you help yourself.
I think we definitely need to clarify the discretionary fund. I don't think we can keep just throwing these expenses in the discretionary fund and then not having the money there to cover it. So we go over budget every year in our discretionary fund because we give it to organizations. Not saying any organization doesn't do it good to the town of Blackstone, but if we do this, then we need to have a separate item, separate line item
Yeah.
for these organizations or for charitable donations overall, whatever it be.
Do you want the 15,000 that y'all have in discretionary, do you want to lower that and take whatever you're, and put that in so keep 5,000 in discretionary and then 10 in agency funding, or vice versa, whatever?
I
Do you
would
wanna
do-
do something like that? Cause we already have the 15 grand in the
We
budget.
have 15, so
We have 15 now.
if we
Yes.
raise it by splitting it, no matter what, we've gotta find And it can't be, as Philip says, one-time money, it needs to be continuous.
But then
I'd
too,
rather split it
but
12
then
and
too, we really haven't really sat down and set a policy
For
on this
agency,
money.
No,
See, here's the whole thing right here, we never have sat down and, cause
then
seed money is only for 1 year, that's anywhere you go. We tell the people it's seed money, and yet they come back 5 years in a row. So we need to define what,
I don't think we've ever told anybody that it's seed money, I think we've always been told that it's seed money, and then we just,
we let it ride.
we. let it
Instead of,
run.
instead of saying, okay, seed money is for a year.
Yeah.
It's to get your event off. No, I don't agree with giving no, if you got an establishment, I don't see where we got to give you $5,000 every year. Or,
I don't have the problem with giving the $5,000 if it's bringing in $5,000 worth of tourism to the town. I don't have a problem with the investment portion of it. If the event is highly successful, then I don't personally have a problem with helping out. And I think you're right, I think there needs to be a cap to that.
I've asked before, what is our meals tax revenue on arts and crafts? What is our meals tax revenue on Juneteenth? To see, I mean, that should be your number one thing that's easy to capture. Now, obviously, you're not gonna capture people, I'm talking about a meals tax for just those vendors at the event. You're not gonna be able to pull out McDonald's and stuff like that.
no.
But do we get $5,000 of meals tax off vendors? I doubt it. We're not getting $5,000.
You'd have to look at the increase for the month
Yeah.
compared to other months and then hope that there's not holidays or something else that messes with it.
Yeah. And then obviously you've got people going into shops, you've got sales tax and whatnot, but.
is it $5,000 that we put in, or is it coming back, you know?
Yeah.
That's the whole thing.
And that's where it's hard to define.
Just like the chamber, the $11,000, I mean, it's hard to justify giving somebody $11,000. It's hard.
Do we want, Jake, you had an idea, do you want to make that in the form of a recommendation, or what? Neither way, no way we do this is gonna be perfect to start, it's gonna be that we have to set a policy, we have to abide by that policy and enforce it as well, I mean. Status quo, I don't think is satisfactory, because number one, it skews our budget. And we overspend every year. And it just gives us too much leeway, I think. We've gotta tie our hands a little bit.
Then we do 3,000 to petty discretionary and 12,000 to agency discretionary. I don't mean petty as in,
Just our regular council discretion.
yes.
You doing what now?
Split the 15,000 into two different discretionary funds, one for agency discretionary and one for
Just your regular
just normal
council
discretionary, like when the
Trophies or something like that.
trophies and plaques and,
Yeah.
and then, I don't think with this big of an issue, no matter what we decide up here, the three of us,
Oh,
I don't think any recommendation we make
no.
is gonna be worth a grain of salt when it comes to the whole council, because everybody's gonna have a strong
I
opinion on
don't
this
think,
one.
I don't know. I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna kick on it,
I mean, I think we'll
Okay, go on.
voice our opinions
as I am.
when it comes up, but I think no matter what, we make it as a,
So that's a motion to you.
yeah, that's a motion.
I'll say.
3,000 for,
Any
Or,
discussion? My only question is, the 3,000, in your knowledge of what we put into that line item, is 3,000 enough to cover
The smaller
the
things?
the stuff that,
I would say yes.
Trophies and stuff like that.
and I think it is, but our problem is we'll vote on just random stuff and we'll go, hey, where's it from? And we just pull it from somewhere.
Yes.
We've gotta stop pulling numbers out of the air.
Well, I provided a breakdown of what has been spent year to date
Yeah.
in your discretionary fund last council, and I'll do that every council.
Yes,
It'll just
that'd
be in
be
that
good.
informational, you can see a bottom line
That'd be great.
total every month. So that when y'all go to vote on something, oh, we wanna give plaques out to the whole team that won the, just take a look.
I don't
Take a
want,
look,
I don't
you
want
know?
us to, and I mentioned this in a text message earlier to Chris. I don't want us to be in the situation that Nottaway's in now, 10 years down the road, where all of a sudden, we've gotta raise taxes 24%.
Yeah,
We need to watch it now.
yeah.
Not saying we stop everything that we're doing, but we just need to watch where we expend
Be
money.
smart about it, yeah.
And then too, you know, I feel like this too. You know, you taking the venues out of town, that's not cool either.
Yeah.
That's not cool. And I understand arts and crafts is going over here, out somewhere out in the country or something. I mean, we give you the money, you take it out of town, I mean, it's not right either.
I think it's probably our job as finance committee to decide how much we wanna spend on it though, and then let the council decide what they wanna spend it on.
I don't have an issue with that.
I think that's more what our role is, to try to figure out how much money to divvy up, and then the council figures out how they wanna divvy it. Does that make sense?
It does, absolutely. I think the main thing, my concern was with trying to actually create a cleaner budget with creating separate line items.
Yeah.
And I think that'll actually help us stay in line a little bit better too.
Yeah.
And then, just because Jake's recommending $12,000 in there for agency funding, that doesn't mean we gotta give out $12,000.
That's what I'm
Right,
saying,
that's
that's
why
what I'm
That's
saying.
why I added the word discretionary.
That's what I'm
Because it's
saying.
there, doesn't mean.
And the first requirement is they should be 501c3.
Yes.
Well, that's why they fill out the packets.
Right.
They have to turn in all that information and fill it out, and then y'all review it and decide whether you want to contribute or not, so.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All right, 3-0 for that change. And we have Armory interior renovation, the doozy.
Well,
This is not gonna get solved, I can.
No, I will tell you that.
$750,000, good luck.
If
What
we
I-
should've solved that when we voted up there, that's
Have
what
you
we should've did.
done some research and met with the bank, and Jackie's also gotten the terms and conditions from our existing borrowing that we had with Benchmark Bank. We have a $400,000 line with Benchmark Bank that'll expire August, and then they'll reset us to 6.2%.
6.12 or something?
6 point, line of credit,
What are we
Right.
at?
6.12%.
And that's what it's
Until,
staying the same,
until August, then they reset.
and then it resets, but we don't know what the number is when it resets to.
We don't know the number at the reset. Okay, plus,
Sure
we,
that will be 8.
I can tell you that there are others at 8, or unsecured lines or anything.
That's not
Not good. We haven't finished working yet, no decision needs to be made tonight. We still got several $1 million of grant monies to spend down, so tonight's not the night that you have to make a decision. We still have about $650,000 of unspent ARPA money that we're still working with. And we still have 1.9, or excuse me, 1.4, $1,950,000 of grant money that have been provided to the town that haven't been spent yet. We haven't drawn
but
it
it's been designated outside, so what's left is this $750,000 number we need to.
up to 750, but I don't have a good number, so I'm not asking you to make a decision tonight, but I am telling you, we continue to work on it, try to find other sources of revenues. We'll hopefully be able to report some positives. We've been chasing everybody in Richmond down and see if there's any additional funds. Virginia Union, talking to them, see if there's additional funds, but at this time, what I want to tell you is you're currently at 612 until August, and I dare say that's going to be at an 8 for an unsecured line. And other banks have discussed as much as 8% for unsecured lines as well.
Is this something that is gonna have to be decided in this budget?
It's not included in the budget.
What I'm asking is this something that
No, you don't have to decide it.
next year's round of funding, or is this something that's gonna be needed this year?
It'll be in this upcoming fiscal year. Yeah,
It's gonna be an appropriation.
absolutely. You'll have to do an appropriation for whatever we come up with, or however we do it. You're gonna have to make an appropriation.
You thinking it's $700,000?
Well, I think it's as much, and that depends what you do on the outside of the building. If you want to paint the outside or take off all the old stucco or whatever that product is that's on there, that's included in that 750.
It's gonna be over 20 million in this budget with this included.
But no, you don't need to make a decision tonight, but what you're looking for on lines of credit are in the 8% range.
I didn't know if something could break out in phases.
So Philip, so
We could break out next year.
this Armory thing, so what do they, I mean, what is making you figure this? Was this added on to the plans, or this was in the plans?
No, the original plans didn't include the kitchen intentionally, okay? The original plan that we came up with, remember, was $3.7 million, and we've had a $100,000 change order already for the deteriorated timbers. So we're at about 3.8, and that was the bid, and that was a basic bid. That did not do the kitchen, did not paint the interior, and did not finish the floors. It repairs the floors, but we've got to put the final varnish or the paint.
What baffles me is how that finishing on the floor, yeah, fixing it,
Mm-hmm.
but actually the finishing coat was not included.
Well, I can tell you that when I told them this is too much,
They just went through and started cutting.
because of
That was one of the things he shouldn't have cut.
and the exterior of the building. Well, it's going to get done. I mean, you're going to pay for it one way or another, but not less.
What's the
That's something
proposal
that could
for
be
the
looked at
outside?
Hmm?
What's the proposal for the outside?
For the
outside?
there is no proposal for the outside. It's going to look just like it does. Maybe some trim around the windows, things like that. But for the and painting the doors and fixing the doors, we're still going to use those old kind of historic looking doors. But there's no plan for the outside.
What pieces of the armory do we need to finish to keep grant funding?
To use grant funding,
Keep grant funding.
you got to have the kitchen in there. You got to do the kitchen. 750 total. I don't know. I can break it out and look at his proposal, but
That's what I'm curious about, because I'm curious if we can save the exterior till next year's.
yeah.
grant
Oh
funding
yeah.
sort of
Oh,
like that.
absolutely. Don't do the exterior now. No, 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 no.
So I'm trying to figure out how much money we're
I think a half.
obligated next
We
year.
applied for a grant for $500,000, and that was going to do the kitchen, the painting, and the interiors. That was going to finish that. That $500,000 that we got turned down for. That was to finish our obligations, not the outside, not a parking lot, not antique lighting, not any of that kind of stuff. I may have to do some concrete repair in front where they've been putting lifts up there and kind of smushing the concrete. I'm gonna have to do that anyhow. But about $500,000 finishes the inside of the building.
That's what we're.
All right. And the bids are going to determine it all. I mean, it could come lower than that.
So that's the last phase.
Last phase. Well, if you do the outside, that would be the last phase.
Last
Painting and everything.
obligation for.
The last necessity would be about $500,000.
And I think it needs to be, obviously, we know that it comes down to the dollar. But I also think, out of courtesy, we need to also make it known that, as Jake said, we must go ahead and figure that we're going to do the outside, but I think, obviously, we can't do it this year.
Let's see where the bids come in. What we'll do, and what I've already communicated with the architect, is bid the outside as an alternate. You get your base bid for everything inside, and the alternate would be, and you would have a full price of maybe $185,000, whatever it is, to do the outside of the building, but you can accept it or turn it down. But you award on base, and you could award on base and alternate together depending on whether you accept the alternate.
All right. Anything else? Obviously,
Budget stuff, if you have
budget
any
is gonna
questions.
be us discussing this week. I mean,
There only there's a change in there, because Prince Edward pulled their local funding for the bus, so.
they pulled, is that all because of the water deal?
I don't know, it just sounded like.
Look at the
it
camera
was-
and say that. Look at the camera and say, I don't know.
I don't know.
I think it's because
So $8,480
we haven't been as nice
was
to them as
pulled.
they would like, so.
Was there
So
any
we're just
money in that route?
$8,480
So we-
less than what I
Was
did
there any
today,
money in that route?
because I had to take that out.
That's
But
about
our expense
$8,000.
went down
So
too.
Our
does the
expense
route
went down
go?
also, so we just took it out of the, the fuel,
What did they contribute last time, 14,000? 8,000.
$8,480
So now
was there.
the route goes away?
Yes, the route is gone, it's gonna be gone, there will be no.
It'll be
route
adjusted,
to Prince Edward.
the anticipated route will be a 3-day-a-week route and it'll go to Amelia.
It'll go through and just go to Amelia.
But not go to Prince Edward.
How many,